everyone. I thought I would do an evening Bible reading for you guys tonight. So tonight, if you want to follow along with me or want to know what we're reading, let's see. We're going to be reading in the New International Version, and we will be reading Acts chapter 9 verses 26 through 43, Psalm 132, and Proverbs chapter 17 verse 6. And again, that's in the New International Version. Now, before we get started with Acts, I want to let you guys know a little bit about where we're at. Since I'm not doing the daily Bible readings anymore, I may start doing them later on, but that's something we can talk about later. But since we haven't been reading every day, you don't know what we've read before, what is before this. So we are in the book of Acts, okay? And the book of Acts is mainly about Paul, and Paul becoming an apostle, a disciple of Jesus. Now, in this time where we're at, Jesus has already been crucified. He's already risen from the dead, and he has already been on earth for 40-some days, and many people have seen him after his death, and he rose from the dead, and then he has already ascended to heaven. So Paul didn't know Jesus personally. He has heard about him, but he's with the group of like imperial guards, the army of the king, and he is, I'm calling him Paul, but his name then was Saul, okay? And Saul, he didn't believe Jesus was the Son of God. He was one of the people that persecuted Christians, which means he beat them, he arrested them, he took them to be killed, okay? Christians, nobody liked back then unless you were one, and Christian means you believe in Jesus. You're following Christ. Christ, Christian. So, on the road to Damascus, Paul was going with some other people to go persecute Christians because they had went to Damascus, or they had went to the place, and he wanted to get them and send them back to be punished and killed. So he was on the road to Damascus to go there, and all of a sudden, everybody there seen a bright light, so bright that it blinded Paul, and everybody there, they blinded it. They couldn't see, but Paul could see this, and Jesus appeared in front of Paul, and Paul said, Lord, who are you? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you persecute. And then Jesus wanted to talk to him, and why do you persecute me, Saul? And Saul knew right then that Jesus was the Son of God. Okay, and Jesus made him blind. And Paul was having a really hard time with that, as you could imagine anybody would. And Jesus blinded him. And Paul then realized his whole life was changing, because he knew Jesus was the Son of God now. He had no doubt then. And another disciple, which I believe was Ananias, could be wrong, God said, go to Saul and touch his eyes and they will be open. But he was scared to, because Saul was a bad person. He killed Christians, okay? But he did what the Lord told him to do, and he went and touched his eyes, Saul's eyes, and God had already told Saul that a guy was going to come named that, and he would touch him and his eyes would be open. And it happened just as he said. He touched Saul's eyes and Saul's eyes were open. He was no longer blind. The scales fell from his eyes. And at that moment, the other disciple knew that Saul had changed, and Saul went immediately and became baptized, which means he becomes a new person, body and soul. Just like anyone does when they become baptized and believe in the Lord, of course, because just getting baptized for no reason, and it's not going to save your soul. So Paul did that, and he started preaching about Jesus. And a lot of disciples did not believe that Saul had changed. They were scared of him. And it took a long time for all of them to trust Saul, that he was really loving Jesus and a Son of God now, and that he was their brother that believed in Christ with them. And after he'd done many good works, preaching the word of Jesus and doing many healing people and everything, doing many miracles. They started believing him, and they changed Saul's name to Paul, because he was a new person now, so he also changed his name, so people wouldn't always think of him as Saul, the killer, but now of Paul, the apostle, the disciple. And he'd done many good things. So that's where we are at right now. So let's go ahead and get started with the book of Acts now. Just wanted to let you know who this is talking about when they said he here. They're talking about Saul. His name is not yet changed at this point. When he came to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, Saul did. But they were all afraid of him, not believing that he really was a disciple. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. He told them how Saul, on his journey, had seen the Lord, and that the Lord had spoken to him, and how in Damascus he had preached fearlessly in the name of Jesus. So Saul stayed with them and moved about freely in Jerusalem, speaking boldly in the name of the Lord. He talked and debated with the Hellenistic Jews, but they tried to kill him. When the believers learned of this, they took him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarshish. Now Saul was born in Tarshish. Then the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened. Living in the fear of the Lord and encouraged by the Holy Spirit, it increased in numbers. As Peter traveled about the country, he went to visit the Lord's people who lived in Lydda. There he found a man named Aeneas, who was paralyzed and had been bedridden for 8 years. Aeneas, Peter said to him, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up, roll up your mat. Immediately Aeneas got up. All those who lived in Lydda and Sharon saw him and turned to the Lord. In Joppa there was a disciple named Tabitha. Tabitha was a really good woman. Disciples of Jesus can be women too, not just men. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, please come at once. Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. All the windows stood around him, All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. Peter sent them all out of the room. Then he got down on his knees and prayed. Turning toward the dead woman, he said, Tabitha, get up. She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Peter stayed in Joppa for some time, a tanner named Simon. And that's where we are going to stop today with the book of Acts. But if you would like to continue on with that yourself, you can also have it read to you by a really great pastor and a phenomenal reader, phenomenal videos, Brian Harden. You can go to www.biblegateway.com and click on the Daily Audio Bible, or you can just go to www.dailyaudiobible.com. And you can follow along with it every day. And it'll read through Brian will read through the Bible every day with you, and you can read through the whole New Testament, or actually the whole Bible with him in a year. And with me, you can go through with me you could have, when I did it, went through the whole New Testament in a year. We might start doing that again. It's still up in the air right now. Okay, so our psalm is Psalm 132, a song of ascents. Now, David was the king at this time. King David was the king in Jerusalem, everywhere there. Lord, remember David and all his self-denial. He swore an oath to the Lord. He made a vow to the mighty one of Jacob. I will not enter my house or go to my bed. I will allow no sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids, till I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the mighty one of Jacob. We heard it in Ephrathah. We came upon it in the fields of Jar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool, saying, Arise, Lord, and come to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. The ark of the covenant they're speaking of, which we'll talk about that in a minute. May your priests be clothed with your righteousness. May your faithful people sing for joy. For the sake of your servant David, do not reject your anointed one. The Lord swore an oath to David, a sure oath he will not revoke. One of your own descendants I will place on your throne. If your sons keep my covenant and the statutes I teach them, then their sons will sit on your throne forever and ever. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling, saying, This is my resting place forever and ever. Here I will sit enthroned, for I have desired it. I will bless her with abundant provisions. Her poor I will satisfy with food. I will clothe her priests with salvation, and her faithful people will ever sing for joy. Here I will make a horn grow for David, and set up a lamp for my anointed one. I will clothe his enemies with shame, but his head will be adorned with a radiant crown. Okay? And David did stay faithful to the Lord all the days of his life. And when we're talking about, let me see where it's at real quick. Sorry. It's my eyes. Well, anyway, I know what it is. When they're talking about the ark of your might, talking to the Lord, they're talking about the ark of the covenant. And the ark of the covenant is a big golden stand that you carry, but it's got the 10 commandments in it, the tablets of the 10 commandments. Okay, and Moses went up on the mountain and got them from God, made the 10 commandment tablets, and then they put them in the ark of the covenant. The first set got broken because the people that were with Moses, all the Hebrews, all the Israelites that God had rescued from the land of Egypt, were wandering in the desert to get to the promised land. And Moses went up to the mountain to talk with God, and God gave him the 10 commandments. And while Moses was up there, it was a good while he was up there, they thought, is he coming back? Is he not? We don't know what's going on. We need something. We want to worship, the people told Aaron, which was Moses' brother, Aaron. And so they threw all their jewelry together in this furnace-like thing, and out came an idol, a golden calf that got made from all their jewelry. And they worshipped the calf. They gave up on the Lord their God and worshipped a stupid golden calf, okay? Something that cannot breathe, cannot speak, cannot eat, cannot do anything. It's just from looks. And they worshipped that golden calf. And when Moses came back down from the mountain with the 10 commandments, and he seen them worshiping a cow, an idol, something other than God, he threw the 10 commandments down and broke them in anger. But Moses got the Lord to forgive the people and give them another chance, which the Lord did over and over and over, because he loved his people, just like he loves all of us now. And Moses went back up to the mountain and got another set of 10 commandments from God, and they are still very sacred. They were put in the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so that was that. And the son of David that gets put on the throne after David is the youngest son of David, King Solomon. Solomon is David's son by his last wife, which he's had other ones still alive at the time too. The last girl he married, Bathsheba, that was the mother of King Solomon. And God called Solomon Jedediah. But everybody knows him as King Solomon, the wise king. And he was the one that actually built the house for God. God told David, I don't need a dwelling place. I had what can you give me that I don't already have? But David was like, please, we want you to have a house. We want you to be here with us, dwell with us. And he didn't live there physically, but his spirit would go there and talk with the priests and stuff. And the Lord's like, fine, that'll be okay, but you're not going to make it. One of your son that goes on the throne after you will make it. And that was King Solomon. And he made a very grand place for the Lord, for his spirit to go talk to the priests and stuff. So, I could tell you more about Bathsheba and David and Solomon and all that, but I don't know how long the video has went to already, and it'll only go to 30 minutes. So, let's go ahead and finish up with Proverbs chapter 17, verse 6. Children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. And when it says children's children are a crown to the aged, that means grandchildren, our children's children, or children's children. Like if I had a child, it's grandparents and grandchildren. And isn't that so true? Most grandparents love their grandkids so much. They even treat them most times more better than they did their kids when they had kids. That is the truth. And a lot of grandparents will admit that and tell you that. It's the truth. They obsess over their grandkids. And that is very true. And parents are pride of their children. Children should love their parents, both mother and father, and honor them. Because they're the only parents that we're going to get, and those are the parents that God gave us. They took care of us, in most cases, parents do. They take care of you all your life, ever since God gave you to them. They still do, even when you're an adult. They will, until their life is gone or your life is gone, in most cases. And we should give back to our parents and take care of them if they allow us to. And we have the means to, we should take care of them like they took care of us. So your parents should be the pride of your life. You need to honor them. Even if they're bad to you, honor them. Do not be bad to them back. Just like with anyone. If anyone is bad to you, only be even more nice to them, even more good to them. That is exactly what Jesus would do. Whenever you get mad and think about having a tantrum and throwing things or being mean and hurting someone else, just ask yourself, take a minute before you do anything. When you feel yourself getting so angry, start getting these bad ideas in your head that you're going to do because you're so mad. Trust me, I know how that is to have those thoughts. You want to stop and think and ask yourself, wait a minute. God's watching me. Jesus is watching me. My brother Jesus and my Father in heaven is watching everything I do. And they know what I'm feeling in my heart and what I'm thinking because they know my thoughts. They're the only ones that can see into your heart and your mind and know how you are feeling and what you are thinking. And ask yourself, what would Jesus do if he was here in this situation? And then you would know Jesus would not do anything bad. He would only do good. And that makes you the bigger, better person. And you will become more Christ-like. And everybody that hurts you will have to pay for their actions. They will have to answer to God, just like you will, just like I will. We will all have to answer to God for our own actions. So remember that. And even when you're angry, just stop, take a breath, and think. And pray to your brother Jesus and Father in heaven. You can talk out loud or you can talk to them in your head. I do all the time, every day. You don't have to speak out loud, for God knows your thoughts and what's in your heart. Speak to them. You will get calmed down. Just give it time. And trust me, your life will be a whole lot better. A whole lot better. Okay, guys, so that was an evil Bible reading. Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. I was talking about too much evil there for a minute, wasn't I? Sorry. Oh, I hope I don't give the Bible reading a big bad vibe. That was your evening Bible reading. Not an evil Bible reading, I promise. Don't make it out to be evil. It's your evening Bible reading. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll be back with another one for you guys again soon. Bye guys. I hope you have a great night and a great weekend ahead. Bye.